Discover the incredible love story that will change your life forever with 3 unexpected moments. Emily stood at the counter of the Cedar Grove diner, her hands moving on autopilot as she poured coffee into chipped mugs. She felt like she was in a slow-motion loop, the grease-slicked floors and old jukebox playing the same tunes over and over again. Life was a crawl here, every mundane day blending into the next. But through the haze of routine, her thoughts danced around the vibrant laughter of her son, Jake, a pint-sized whirlwind of imagination and joy. His eyes sparkled with dreams far beyond the walls of their humble home. "Mom, can we read another story tonight?" He'd ask, his voice a melody that lightened her burdens. She smiled, the weight of single motherhood lifting just a little in those moments. In her mind, she often envisioned a future where they wouldn't just survive, but thrive. A warmth enveloped their tiny living room, but the looming shadow of Cedar Grove's economic decline seemed always ready to engulf their little oasis. Then, the phone rang. Emily's heart raced as she picked up. Her father's voice had always silenced the room, a decorated war veteran, once revered, now seemingly carved hollow by the years. "He's in the hospital," the voice on the other end said. Instantly, she felt that old weight settle heavily on her chest. The disarray from their past came crashing back, bringing with it family feuds about loyalty and sacrifice. She wanted to see her father, but the concern for her son gnawed at her insides. How could she honor the man who raised her when it felt like family loyalty was a suitcase with missing wheels? Just when things felt too heavy, serendipity graced her doorstep. Chris walked back into her life. The charming classmate who once dreamed big had returned, his wealth burned to ashes in the wreckage of a failed venture. Their reunion sparked a fire, those shared memories ignited old feelings, but with each conversation, they realized the stark differences in their worlds. Chris was enveloped in success but lonely, while Emily was battling financial storms, her strength rooted in connections and love. Standing in the diner after hours, they talked through the night, tackling what it means to succeed in a small town where values often tangled with ambition. As Cedar Grove's annual community fundraiser approached, the tension between them grew. Would the memories of their romantic past hold up against the reality of their present? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The night of the fundraiser arrived, a night where emotions swelled in the air. As Emily stood before a crowd, she felt the weight of her past and her future hang in the balance. Could she mend the family rift while still reaching for the life she wanted for Jake? The clock ticked on, every second pushing her closer to a decision that could reshape everything. She glanced at Chris, his familiar smile igniting something deep within her. Could their shared past lead to a hopeful future? As the tension thickened around her, her heart raced, and she knew her choice would echo far beyond that evening. The possibilities were endless, but uncertainty gripped her tight. Would she rise to the occasion or falter under pressure? The night had only just begun, and everything felt poised on the edge of a knife. Under the dim glow of the fundraiser's string lights, Emily's heart thudded against her ribcage. The crowd buzzed about her, both encouraging and intimidating. She could feel the eyes of Cedar Grove's entire community upon her, waiting, watching, wondering what she would do. The podium stood tall, its surface polished, reflecting the glint of the dim light like a beacon. With each breath, she thought of Jake. His innocent laughter echoed in her mind, reminding her of the reason she kept pushing through the hard times. Would delivering this speech lead to a better tomorrow for him? Her fingers trembled as she recalled the call from the hospital, her father's weakened voice, and the chasm their past had created. Chris stepped closer, his presence a mix of comfort and challenge. "You got this, Emily," he whispered, as if he could read the storm brewing within her. His eyes sparkled with conviction, a subtle reminder of their connection. Yet, she felt torn between two worlds. The family she had struggled to forgive and the chances of a new love forming, almost too good to be true. "All right. Let us get this started," the MC's voice sliced through the tension, snapping everyone's attention towards the front. Suddenly, it was time for her to step up. She stole a glance at Chris, and he nodded encouragingly. Summoning all the strength she could muster, she took a deep breath and moved forward. As she spoke, her voice wavered but grew stronger with each sentence. "Thank you all for being here tonight, for supporting our community." Faces lit up in recognition, some familiar, others not so much, yet their shared history interwove them. "I've learned that sometimes our roots, our families, can be complicated," she stumbled slightly. "But it's our resilience, our ability to gather and support one another, that truly defines us." The crowd's murmurs turned into silence. Emily could feel a shift happening, a connection igniting amongst the people who had witnessed her journey, maybe even felt their own. She saw the tears in some eyes, women with stories of their own, men who had faced their demons, all gathered for the very same reason, and then the unexpected happened. Emily felt a surge of honesty bloom within her, empowering her to divulge the truth of her heart. "When I was younger, my dad and I had our fair share of disagreements. But with every real struggle, love can emerge from the ashes." A few gasps resonated through the audience, faces softening as memories flashed between them. She locked eyes with Chris. He recognized the transformation erupting in her heart. "Maybe tonight is not just about fundraising, it's about healing. For me, for my family, and for all of us. Sometimes we find love and support in the most unexpected places." The warmth spread through the room, a palpable sense of connection enveloping them all. But as Emily concluded her speech, an awkward silence hung thick in the air, leaving her breathless. Would her words have the impact she yearned for? But just then, she caught sight of someone in the back of the room. Her father had made it after all. The shock of his presence stopped her cold. He wore an expression of uncertainty, a mix of vulnerability and determination. The weight of their past loomed large, but it also offered a glimmer of hope. With a heart filled with newfound courage, she took a step back, feeling a pull toward the man she had both loved and blamed. The crowd sensed the shift, as though the very air crackled with unspoken feelings and unresolved issues. What would happen when she approached him? Would they finally begin to bridge the gap between them, or would this moment turn into another painful hesitation? As she took that first step toward her father, Emily felt the ground beneath her shift. The path ahead was uncertain, but one truth loomed large: love had the power to change everything, especially when it came from the unlikeliest of places. And as she reached out, the question lingered: could this be the turning point, or just another complication in the story of her life? Emily felt the eyes of the crowd follow her every move as she approached her father. His familiar, yet distant, figure felt both right and wrong at the same time. Each heartbeat echoed painfully in her ears, the soft rustle of the audience fading into a murmur of anticipation. Would her father feel the love she was trying to extend, or would he pull back, leaving them both in the shadows of their past? "Dad," the word caught in her throat, carrying a weight that felt almost unbearable. She had wrestled with that name for years, had burdened it with expectations and pain. Now, as she stood before him, it felt like a lifeline extended across the chasm that had cracked their relationship. He stepped forward, hesitant. "Emily," his voice clutched at her heartstrings like a tug-of-war between longing and regret. She could see the internal struggle reflected in his eyes, a flicker of hope buried beneath layers of sorrow. "I just want to talk," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "After everything we've been through, I think we owe each other that much." Her own words surprised her, as she hadn't fully realized how much she needed this moment until it was right in front of her. The crowd shifted, quietly curious, their collective breath held. Each face reflected a different story, different struggles and triumphs, reminding her that she wasn't alone, even in the most vulnerable moments. It was as if every pair of eyes was willing her forward, encouraging the confrontation she both craved and dreaded. "I didn't want to come tonight," her father confessed, his tone almost inaudible over the whisper of the crowd. "I thought I'd just make things worse." But with those words, Emily felt a heat rise inside of her. Here was her father, standing in front of her, raw and human, vulnerable in a way she had never witnessed before. "I need you to know that you're not the only one that feels that way. I'm scared too, Dad. Scared of what this means for us." As she spoke, memories flickered in her mind like fireflies, laughter echoed at summer picnics, the feel of his hand on her shoulder when she was sad, the heavy silence that took over the house after the arguments. Each fragment painted a picture of the man she once knew, reminding her of the love that was still buried beneath years of hardship. Tears sailed down her cheeks, and she swiped at them angrily, refusing to let sadness paralyze her. "I don't want us to be strangers. We are still family, aren't we?" Hope bubbled in her chest, dangerous yet exhilarating. Would he reach out? Would he take that final step to bridge the gap that felt so insurmountable? His hand darted out, fingers trembling as they brushed against hers, grasping for connection. It was tentative, but alive. "I've missed you, Emily," he said, and in those words, something shifted, a gentle stirring of the winds of change. The crowd felt it too, murmurs floated around them. The warmth grew, a collective hope enveloping the room like a soft embrace. For a moment, they were more than just a father and daughter standing awkwardly, they were two people, together, ready to confront their wounds. "I want to forgive," she breathed, more to herself than to him. The truth hung in the air, a fragile promise held between them. But just as a smile began to spread across her father's face, a loud crash echoed from the back of the room. Someone stumbled, drawing everyone's attention away from their moment of connection. Emily's heart plummeted. What had just been unfolding was now thrown into chaos. Never had it felt so close, and yet so far. What would happen now? Would this intruder shatter the fragile moment they were beginning to build? Would they get the chance to dive deeper, to finally begin the healing they both needed? As uncertainty draped back over the room, Emily's resolve strengthened. Holding his hand tighter, she decided to push ahead no matter where the path might lead. They could still find their way back, together. But first, they had to face whatever lay ahead. And as she steadied herself for the unexpected, a nagging question lingered in her mind: what truly mattered more, the past or the future they could still forge together? The echo of the crash still rang in Emily's ears, as the murmurs in the crowd grew louder, thick with confusion. She could feel her father's hand clasping hers tighter, panic flickering across his face. The atmosphere shifted from intimate to tense in an instant, a reminder that moments were fragile, easily disrupted. Without breaking her gaze from his eyes, Emily turned slightly to assess the commotion. A figure had collapsed to the floor, sprawled awkwardly, as the crowd surged forward. The sense of dread flooded back in, washing over her like a cold wave. What had just felt like a breakthrough now hung in the balance, tempting fate. "Should we help?" she asked, her voice barely rising above the chaos. Her father's eyes flashed with concern, reflecting the turmoil radiating from the audience. The unspoken question loomed: could they really face their past when the present demanded attention? "I'll go," he said, his hand slipping from hers just as she felt the heat of their connection. Emily watched as he moved toward the crowd, a protective instinct igniting in him. For a moment, she felt lost, unsure of whether to follow or stay put. Instead, she stood still, focused on the scene unraveling before her. The figure rose slowly, a young woman clutching her ankle, her face contorted in pain. Relief surged through Emily: it wasn't something worse. But the atmosphere remained thick with worry as people crowded around, offering help and support. "Someone call an ambulance!" a voice yelled out, piercing through the noise, bringing chaos to a head. Emily turned her attention back to her father, who was kneeling beside the young woman. His gentle touch, the way his voice wrapped around her with calming reassurances, reminded Emily of the father she had longed to see again. He was fiercely protective, and in that instant, she knew he had not completely drifted away from her or became the ghost she feared. The crowd watched, absorbed in the scene as the tension slipped just for a moment. Emily's heart swelled with a feeling that had been lingering and unexpressed for too long, hope. If he could be there for this stranger, what stopped him from being there for her? As the young woman was meticulously examined by paramedics, Emily turned her gaze back to her father, who remained by her side, a nurturing presence. He looked up, his eyes catching hers, as if time suspended between them. That connection ignited once more, rekindling the fragments of trust buried beneath their heavy past. "Emily," he called softly, allowing the noise to fade around them. The moment hung in the air like the silence before thunder. "I think," Emily started, her voice trembling with unspent emotion. "I think this is a sign." Before he could respond, the young woman had been gently lifted onto a stretcher, her face now relaxed, relieved. The crowd was calming down, a hum of whispers fading into the background. "It means we need to try," she continued, gathering her courage. "To try and address what's between us. We can't let fear keep us apart." His stare softened. "You're right," he said, looking around at the onlookers, then back to her. "If we can help someone else, then maybe we can help ourselves. Maybe this is the first step," she suggested, a tentative smile creeping onto her face. And for a flicker of time, hope filled the spaces between their words, knitting together the past and present. Just when a sense of resolution settled between them, a voice broke through the thick silence again. "Is anyone here a relative of the injured?" Emily's heart dashed once more. Who was this man? Was he about to lay another heavy truth on them? As she stood there, weighing her options, another feeling crept in, fear. Would they have to pull apart once again with the arrival of another unexpected truth? Ready to face what came next, she grasped her father's hand again, their paths intertwined tightly. What lay ahead felt uncertain, but together, they could brave anything. Tension buzzed in the air, and a new question loomed: would the new revelations bring them closer, or would they drive them apart once again? Emily's grip tightened around her father's hand as the paramedics moved the injured woman toward the exit. Though the crowd was dissipating, a darkness lingered, thickening the air. "Dad, who is that?" she asked, still keeping her voice barely above a whisper. Her father's expression shifted, the lines on his face becoming etched with concern. "I don't know, but we should find out." His brows furrowed as he scanned the crowd. Emily felt the tension ripple through him, so familiar and yet so estranged. She realized they were both treading in uncertain waters, caught between wanting to bridge their past and the threat of tragedy looming in the present. The man who had called for a family member approached them, his face weary from the day's events. He looked directly at her. "Are you related to the young woman?" Emily instinctively stepped back, unsure of how to respond. Her father answered before she could speak. "No, we're not just concerned bystanders, I guess." The man nodded slowly, his eyes shifting towards the exit where the paramedics had just disappeared. "Well, if you see her family, let them know her ankle's sprained, but the doctor says she'll be okay." Relief washed over Emily, but it was bittersweet. "Thank you," she said, barely above a whisper, her eyes betraying the swirl of emotions inside her. As the man walked away, her heart began to race. She turned back to her father. What if this is just the start? Every little moment feels monumental. Can we truly turn a corner after everything? He studied her, and Emily could see the flicker of understanding gleaming in his eyes. "Emily, life is unpredictable. But now, in this moment we have a chance. A chance to be brave together." But before she could respond, the murmur of the crowd shifted again. Another figure emerged, a striking woman with an air of urgency about her. She pushed her way through the gathering, her eyes scanning the faces around her. "Where is she?" The woman's voice trembled, and it cut through the noise like a hot knife through butter. Her grip tightened around a large handbag, knuckles white as she approached the paramedics. "Who is she?" Emily breathed, exchanging glances with her father, who took a tentative step forward. "I think that's her sister," he whispered back, the weight of the situation sinking in. The airy bonds they were trying to forge began to knot tighter with every revelation, but Emily couldn't shake the unease gnawing at her. The sister reached the paramedics, her face pale, and it was a stark reminder of the fragility of life. Just as she began pleading for details, the young paramedic knelt down to ease her fears, yet Emily's heart raced for another reason. She recognized something in that wild, frantic energy, the same fire she harbored within, the same desperation that fueled her strained relationship with her father. And what about us? What about our anguished truths? Can we really face them like this? She thought, a knot twisting in her belly. Emily's breath quickened. Her father's fingers wrapped snugly around hers, grounding her. "We can't avoid confronting the past, Emily," he murmured. "We owe it to ourselves to heal." Just then, the sister turned, her eyes landing on Emily and her father, her expression turning from worry to a spark of recognition. For a heartbeat, Emily felt her own heart leap into her throat. Did she see something in them? Did she sense their turmoil mirrored hers? As the sister approached, Emily realized this was not merely a chance encounter, it was a turning point. The kind of moment that could either break their bond or forge it anew. "Who are you two?" the sister asked, her voice quivering with raw emotion. "Do we tell her? Or do we hold back?" Emily wondered, her heart thundering against her chest. The path before them flickered with uncertainty, and yet the beautiful fragility of it all filled the air. Would this encounter push them to the edge of connection, or would it send them tumbling back into silence and unanswered questions? In that breathless instant, Emily felt the precipice beckoning her. "Maybe it's time to find out," she whispered, barely aware of what she was about to say next. Emily took a deep breath, her heart pounding like a drum in her ears. The sister stood before them, eyes wide with concern and an unspoken desire for connection. She glanced at the ground, then back at Emily, searching. "Please, I need to know if you're here for her," she said, urgency crackling in the air. We're just here," Emily stammered, unsure of how much to reveal. That word, just, felt heavy in her mouth. It spoke volumes, echoing the void within her relationship with her father. "Just?" the sister echoed, disbelief threaded through her voice. "You look like you care. So many people don't even look back." Emily glanced at her father, who was watching the sister intently, a hint of softness in his eyes. Maybe this was the moment to break free from their cycle of silence. "We do care about you and her," she managed to say. "We want to help." The sister paused, her expression softening. "I'm Sarah, and she's my sister, Lily." "Emily," she replied, unease crashing like waves over her. "And this is my dad." For the first time in that moment, her father offered a small, encouraging smile. It felt surprising, almost like it had been years since he had shared warmth with anyone. Lily. The name hung heavy between them, and with it came a wave of empathy. Emily could see the weight of love and fear in Sarah's eyes, familiar feelings that hit too close to home. "What happened?" Emily found herself asking. "She was running, tripped on a staircase while trying to catch a bus," Sarah explained, her voice trembling. "I can't stand the thought of her being hurt. I wish I could have been there." Emily's thoughts raced, a flood of memories swirling around the last time she wished she could have saved someone she still felt aching loss for. It struck her how easily tragedy could transform a moment into something heartbreaking. Then, Sarah's voice cracked like glass. "I'm scared. I just want to hold her. I can't lose her, too." The raw, open fear spilled from her like an untamed river, pulling at Emily's heartstrings. "We won't let that happen," her father spoke, the conviction in his voice providing a strange comfort. "We can help you keep track of the doctors and we can stand with you." Emily felt a spark igniting within her, fueled by the shared agony, a flame for reconciliation. "Yes." The word slipped out before she could reconsider. "We're here. We'll be your support." Sarah's eyes widened in surprise, a mix of gratitude and disbelief folding over her features. "You do that for us?" Her father nodded gently. It's important. We've all experienced loss, pain. We understand that a little light in the dark can be the difference. In that moment, Emily's chest felt lighter. Their shared struggle seemed to forge an invisible bond, a fragile but real connection that she had longed for. Maybe this wasn't just another event clouded by fear and uncertainty, but a new beginning. I can't thank you enough, Sarah whispered, wiping away a tear. It feels like no one else cares. But within her was hope, a sliver of realization that they all needed each other. We know what it's like to feel alone, Emily said, feeling bold in her vulnerability. But together, we can face anything. What that meant for her and her father, she couldn't fully grasp. But as she watched Sarah's relief blend with her own rising strength, she realized that perhaps this was the chance both families needed to begin healing. Just then, a voice from the crowd piped up, breaking the moment. Hey, does anyone have the latest on Lily? They all turned as another woman wove through the crowd, panic-stricken. What if she thinks we've abandoned her? Emily feared. With one uncertain step, she knew they had to unite their stories, to forge ahead even as the path remained steep and uncharted. Let us find out together, her father said softly, steering himself and Emily toward the newcomer. That's the strength I need, Sarah said, nodding fiercely. But as they drew closer, Emily felt a chill run down her spine. What news awaited them? Would they find courage in the truth, or would it shatter the delicate unity they had started to build? With every step, the uncertainty loomed as heavy as the darkness that still lingered in the air. They reached the woman just as a ripple of tension spread through the onlookers. Emily noticed the woman's hands were shaking slightly, and her eyes darted around in frantic search of someone who might ease her burden. Excuse me, the woman gasped, her breath quickening. Are you here for Lily? Yes, Sarah answered, stepping forward. We want to know how she is. The woman's face fell, and for a split second, time seemed to freeze. Emily's heart raced as she prepared herself for whatever was coming. Lily's stable for now, the woman began, her voice trembling, but she's unconscious. The doctors are hopeful, but her words trailed off. The unspoken but hung in the air heavier than any sentence. Hope flickered in Sarah's eyes, but they were clouded with tears and dread. What does that mean? Can I see her? They're saying she's in a fragile state, the woman replied gently. I'm sorry, they don't allow visitors just yet. Only family. Sarah's body sagged under the weight of disappointment. Emily felt her own heart sink too. The comfort they had just built now felt threatened by this sudden wall of reality. We're family too, Emily blurted out before she could think better of it, her voice shaking. We want to be there for her. She shouldn't be alone. The woman regarded her with a mixture of surprise and compassion. It's a complicated situation, she said softly. I don't care about complicated. Sarah interjected, her voice rising in eternal frustration. I need to be with my sister. The crowd shifted, absorbing the energy of Sarah's plea. Emily could feel the weight of attention on them all, a collective breath held in anticipation. Let us help, Emily's father said, stepping in with calm determination. I understand your fear, Sarah. It's not easy. But maybe we can fight for her together. We can speak with the doctors, gather the right information. As he spoke, Emily reached for Sarah's hand, intertwining their fingers. In that simple, instinctive way, she felt the invisible ties connecting their hearts. You're not alone, she whispered. We're in this together. Sarah looked back at her, gratitude replacing some of the tension in her expression. They stood as united as they could be, almost like a new family forged from shared suffering and hope. With the woman leading the way to the nurse's station, Emily felt a sense of urgency build. There was so much at stake, but she also sensed an undeniable shift. They were all in this quest together. As they stepped into the brightly lit corridor filled with the scent of antiseptic and anxiety, Emily's thoughts raced. Would the doctors understand their plea? How would they convince them to let Sarah in, to see Lily? They halted, gathered before the nurse's desk. The atmosphere felt electric, charged with anticipation for what was to come. Sarah glanced nervously at Emily before addressing the nurse. "Please, we need to know how she's really doing. I can't just sit here waiting. I need to see her, she needs to know I'm with her." The nurse lifted her head, eyeing them closely, and for a moment, Emily thought she might reject their requests. But something shifted in the nurse's expression, and suddenly, there was a glimmer of understanding. "Let me see what I can do," she replied slowly, a note of empathy in her voice. "Wait here." Hope surged, sending a wave of warmth through Emily's chest. Could they really make this work? As they waited, hand in hand, Emily felt a familiar ache deep within her. She was fumbling through her own fears, but she also felt her father's reassuring presence beside her for the first time in ages. The sound of their collective breaths filled the void between them, a shared rhythm of shared hope despite the shadows that still lingered. What would the doctor say? Would they allow Sarah to see Lily, to reassure her in the way they so desperately needed? Each heartbeat felt like it was counting down to a revelation, or perhaps a truth neither of them was fully prepared for. The nurse returned, but her expression was unreadable. "There's more we need to discuss." And just like that, the grip of uncertainty tightened again. What could she possibly mean? The tight knot in Emily's stomach twisted, and she braced herself for the answer that might shift everything they had just begun to build. Emily felt the room's air grow thick with anxiety as the nurse cleared her throat, preparing to deliver news that felt as if it might shatter their fragile hope. "Lily, she isn't just in a fragile state," the nurse began hesitantly. "There are complicating factors regarding her condition. We need to consider all options moving forward." "What do you mean?" Sarah pressed, her words stumbling over one another. She searched the nurse's eyes, desperate for clarity. Emily felt Sarah's grip tighten, her anxiety palpable as it radiated through their linked hands. The nurse hesitated, searching for the right words. "She sustained significant injuries in the accident. There are unknowns. We need to prepare for all possible outcomes." Each word felt like a punch to Emily's gut, replacing the flicker of hope with flickering shadows. But she could see Sarah's determination burning bright, unwilling to let fear overshadow their love for Lily. "No!" Sarah exclaimed, her voice ringing out like a bell. "You don't understand. We need to see her. She needs us fighting for her. She is a fighter. She will pull through. I know it." The nurse watched Sarah, her expression softening with understanding. In that moment, Emily wished she could wrap Sarah in a warm embrace, hoping to share strength through touch. Instead, she offered a gentle squeeze of Sarah's hand, silently conveying support. "I'll try to help," the nurse finally said, her voice steadying. "But it is against policy. We have to comply with regulations. However, if you're family and if you truly feel she needs you there may be a way." "What do you need us to do?" Emily's father asked, his steadying presence urging them onward. "I'll confer with the attending physician. If you can provide your relation to Lily, I might be able to sway his decision." "But it won't be easy," the nurse replied, a note of caution nestled in her tone. "How can I provide proof?" Sarah's words spilled forth, frantic yet hopeful. Emily's mind raced, thinking back to the photo of them all together during last summer's family picnic. "We can show them pictures," she suggested. "If they see how close you are it might convince them." Sarah nodded, her eyes wild with possibility. "I have my phone." As they waited, Emily's heart thudded in her chest, the seconds stretching on endlessly. She glanced at her father, whose expression was resolute, and at Sarah, whose gaze was fixed on the doorway as if willing the doctor to appear. Moments later, the nurse returned, flanked by a tall doctor in a white coat. His brow was furrowed, and Emily could see the weight of his responsibility felt heavy on his shoulders. "Good evening," he said, his voice calm but serious. "I understand that you'd like to see Lily." Yes, please. Sarah blurted out. She needs me. I need her. The doctor paused, sizing them up. I require a few things from you first, he said, glancing at Sarah. I need to ascertain your relationship to her and assess the emotional impact your presence may bring. Of course. I'm her sister, Sarah started. This is Emily, my best friend. We have to be there for her. Sure, the doctor responded, softening slightly. But we need verification. Emily could feel the tension crackling in the air. We can show you pictures, documents, whatever you need. Anything to prove our bond. As Sarah pulled out her phone, Emily felt the world shift. Would their efforts be enough? Would they really be allowed to see Lily, to fight alongside her? The doctor studied them for a long, excruciating moment, and Emily could sense his indecision. Then, he sighed deeply. Let me see what I can do. Just then, a commotion broke out farther down the hall, loud shouts and scrambling feet puncturing the tense silence. What now? Emily thought, feeling dread claw its way back. She exchanged worried glances with Sarah and her father, wondering if this interruption would undo everything they had just fought to build. What was happening? Would their chance to be with Lily slip away just as quickly? Time froze as they awaited an answer, the uncertainties hanging heavily like a storm cloud, threatening to burst at any moment. The door to the waiting area flew open, and a flurry of medical staff rushed in, their faces tense and urgent. Emily's breath caught in her throat, a chill crawling down her spine. She looked at Sarah, eyes wide with fear, the color draining from Sarah's face as the chaos unfolded. Stay back. Give them space. A voice shouted, cutting through the noise. It was the doctor, his tone firm as he directed a team of nurses down the hall where the commotion erupted. Every instinct in Emily's body screamed at her to follow, to know what was happening, but she felt frozen in place, a spectator in a nightmare. What are they doing? Sarah whispered, voice shaking. Emily couldn't answer, her heart pounding like a drum in her ears as they awaited the outcome. Let's just stay put, Emily managed, trying to sound calm despite the panic coiling within her. She grasped Sarah's hand tighter, reminding herself that they needed to support each other, even in uncertainty. Minutes passed that felt like an eternity. The commotion eventually faded but was replaced by an eerie silence that seemed to wrap around them like a heavy blanket. Just then, the doctor reappeared, his expression more serious than before. Emily exchanged anxious glances with her father, both of them silently urging him to say something, anything that would alleviate the tension. We need to talk, he began slowly, his gaze shifting between Emily and Sarah. It's about Lily. There's been an unexpected development. Emily's heart dropped as if it had fallen through the floor. The words hung in the air, weighty with implications. What development? She managed to ask, her voice barely above a whisper. The doctor cleared his throat, then continued, we're doing everything we can. However, she remains critical. I'm concerned her condition is deteriorating faster than anticipated. We need to do all we can to stabilize her. No. That can't be happening. Sarah's voice cracked, breaking the tension like a fragile glass shattering on tile. Emily felt tears stinging her eyes as she fought to remain strong, to not let despair take hold. We need to make a decision, the doctor said, his tone softening but still urgent. If you truly believe your presence will help her, I'll allow one person to go in for a brief visit. But it must be quick. Me. I'll go. Sarah responded immediately, determination flashing back into her eyes. But Emily saw the fear behind it, the uncertainty lurking in her bravado. No, Emily interjected, we should decide together. She may want to see both of us. The doctor watched their exchange with intent. If you both can convince me that your bond will give her strength, I won't deny you the chance. But you'll have to act quickly, it may not last long. A wave of emotions crashed over Emily. The thought of seeing Lily weighed down by machines, fighting for breath, made her stomach twist. Yet the idea of not being there at all was unbearable. Maybe we should show him our pictures, Emily suggested, her heart racing at the idea. To prove our connection, our love for her. Sarah nodded vigorously, pulling out her phone again. She scrolled through, selecting a picture of the three of them at the picnic. Their smiles were bright, carefree, a snapshot of joy from before it all changed. "Look," Sarah said, her voice suddenly steadier. "This is us. We're family. We can be her strength." The doctor glanced at the picture, then back to them. The silence stretched long and heavy, full of unsaid words. "And if she hears us, I mean, if she knows we are there," Emily faltered. "Would it be enough? Would Lily feel their love even from afar?" The doctor took a deep breath. "All right. One of you can go. But only for a few minutes. Let us do it together," Sarah whispered, her eyes glistening with determination. "But only one could enter." "Okay," Emily agreed, her throat tight. "I'll go first. You can be right outside, okay? Then we'll switch." With one last squeeze of Sarah's hand, Emily pulled the nurse's attention and took a step toward the looming door. She felt fear wash over her, but also a flicker of hope. Would her love reach Lily? Would it be enough? As Emily walked into the dim light of the ICU, her heart raced, uncertainty wrapping around her like a shroud. And there was Lily, small and fragile, lying in a bed surrounded by buzzing machines. Lily, the word barely escaped her lips. Would she even hear it? But then, in that sterile room filled with medical equipment, Emily sensed the quiet battle Lily was waging. A resolve ignited inside her, and she realized the fight wasn't just for Lily's life. It was for all the moments they would share in the future, but would the moment slip away as quickly as it arrived? The cacophony of uncertainty loomed heavily in the air, begging the question, could love really conquer the impossible? As Emily stepped into the dim light of the ICU, every breath felt like a lifeline. "Lily," she whispered, her voice trembling. The young woman lay frail and still, connected to a network of tubes and machines. The beeping monitors punctuated the silence, their rhythm echoing like the sound of Emily's heartbeat against the backdrop of uncertainty. Stepping closer, Emily fought to collect her emotions, determined to let Lily know she was not alone. She could feel a bubbling warmth within her, a fierce love that surged despite the ominous setting. "It's me, Emily. I'm here with you," she said, her heart racing, praying the words would drift into Lily's subconscious. "There's so much love waiting for you." For a fleeting moment, Emily's mind flickered back to her own struggles, the loneliness that had often drowned her in despair. But right now, none of that mattered. She needed to be the embodiment of hope, to remind Lily that life teemed beyond these hospital walls. "You're a fighter, Lily. You can do this. You have people who care about you. Your sister is waiting just outside," she said, her voice steady like a rock amidst the storm. "We won't leave you." A pulse of energy seemed to tether them, something almost tangible that dared to push through the chaos of uncertainty. She reached out, lightly touching Lily's hand. It was cool to the touch, yet felt somehow solid, a bridge made of shared love and unyielding faith. Emily closed her eyes and pictured joyous moments they could share once Lily healed, a picnic bathed in sunlight, laughter filling the air, and the warmth of friendship at their backs. Just then, a soft shuffling noise shattered the stillness. Emily turned her head to see Sarah in the doorway, looking as if she might fall apart at any moment. "Lily needs you," Emily stated firmly, the urgency clear in her voice. "She needs to feel the love of her sister." The two exchanged heartfelt glances, a silent agreement that tied them tighter. They both needed to be there for her, to pull her back to life. Emily stepped back, feeling a mixture of relief and apprehension as she prepared to let Sarah in. "It's your turn," she whispered as she pivoted towards the door, her heart still racing, but full of faith. As Sarah inched through the door, Emily felt lighter. "You'll be okay. She is strong," Emily reassured her, feeling back to their moments together back in Cedar Grove, the laughter of boyhood dreams dancing through her mind. You can give her the courage she needs. In the hallway, Emily leaned against the wall, letting her heart find a rhythm of hope. The atmosphere thickened with waiting, as minutes ticked by slowly. Familiar faces appeared. Her father, filled with a sense of belonging as he stood shoulder to shoulder with Sarah's family. Emily witnessed their shared sorrow, merging into a new bond forged from love and hope. After what felt like an eternity, the door creaked open, revealing Sarah, her face stricken yet lit with a fire born from connection. "You were right, Emily. She knows we're here." "I felt it." she responded, "I swear." The raw emotion in Sarah's voice washed over Emily like a tide, filling parts of her heart that had felt desolate for far too long. "Then she's fighting," Emily said, emotions bubbling within her. "That's what matters." Her father's hand rested on her shoulder, a grounding touch, as relief flooded through her. The past tremors of distrust felt distant when facing the resolve of now. Together they stood outside the ICU, two families intertwined by fear, loss, hope, and love. Emily could feel the electricity in the air, the kind that moves mountains. They all shared stories: Sarah's reminders of her sister's little quirks, Emily's reflections on her own son Jake's innocence and laughter. It was healing. They would continue to share the heaviness ahead, transforming pain into purpose. In that very instant, a promise emerged within each of them, to not only battle for Lily's life but to embrace their newfound bonds. They were family. They were stronger together, and as the sun dipped below the horizon, marking the end of one chapter, Emily felt a stirring warmth within her heart, one of profound realization. They would rise together from the ashes, hand in hand, because love always prevails. And as the promise of tomorrow hovered before them, she knew this was only the beginning of a brighter path filled with connection, healing, and joy. What are you waiting for? You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that could change your life forever. Click that button immediately, leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support these inspiring journeys. This is the moment to show your support. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. Let's connect over these heartfelt transformations. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this incredible change. Together, let us spread the love and healing.